this quarter. Ivy looking for a foul. Bailed out and one.
Because there shouldn't have been a closeout to any.
You know who was there, who's truly there for you. Because, people will jump off the bandwagon quick.
A few moments later.
Despite ending a 16-year playoff drought, winning Coach of the Year, and been given an extension, the Sacramento Kings fired Mike Brown 32 games into this season. Why? Well, the Kings are saying that he had lost favor in the locker room and they had to make a change and they had exhausted all other avenues. But the truth is, they're the Sacramento Kings.
Heads I win, tails you lose.
Just flip.
This is a terrible look for the NBA, who is already dealing with significant viewership decline. What's adding gasoline to this fire is rumor that Mike Brown's firing was because he called out DeAaron Fox after a nasty loss in Detroit. But here's the thing, he was right to call him out, and this is what great coaches do. Let's talk about the events that led to Mike Brown's firing and how the NBA needs to step in these situations to prevent destructive impact on viewership long term. Let's talk. Let's first address the elephant in the room. There's this strange added layer in the NBA where certain players of really high stature don't believe in the value of coaches.
Just don't believe in coaching, and you're just wrong.
Yeah, I'm not wrong.
Coaches are four. Coaches are important.
No,
You didn't know.
Yeah, Phil Jackson, bro. And you had the two greatest coaches that ever
Did you watch
basketball,
Phil Jackson coach?
Whether you want to admit it or not, the man who's building the rosters and drawing up the X's and O's and ultimately decides who plays and what we are doing when it's late game situation and you need a bucket, that person by definition is important. The great Erik Spoelstra said it best when commenting on Mike Brown's firing. He says, "It's just a really sad state of our profession. They've had some really good head coaches. Mike and I go all the way back to the beginning. We were both video coordinators. What they did there is really hard to do. If you've been losing for 15, 20 years since Rick Adelman was there, and to change the culture and make the playoffs, you stick with it. Some of our best moments have been when we've lost or we struggled with things and you all get in a room and basically the organization says, figure it the F out. There are no changes." What's shocking about this is coming from a man who is also an NBA coach. It's crazy how one organization can value someone so much and there's clear results, and you can see how another organization is just constantly cycling through coaches and look, their results are trash. The Kings are a joke, and just when it looked like they were turning things around, they sabotaged themselves. Here's Mike Malone, who also worked for the Kings and also was let go unceremoniously.
The coaches said, "You hear about Mike Brown?" I said, "Why? What happened?" They said he got fired. And at first I was really shocked and surprised. And then I caught myself. I said, why am I shocked and surprised? For two reasons. One, because as an NBA head coach, ultimately you're going to get the blame. When they win, it's going to go to Sabonis and Fox. When you lose, it's going to go to Mike Brown. That's the way it works. And two, who he works for. He does his post-game media, and he's in his car going to the airport to fly to LA, and they call him on the phone. No class, no balls. That's what I'll say about that.
So this organization has a huge, long history of incompetence, and they seem set on continuing that indefinitely. But you thought, hey, last couple years, things were turning around. They actually made the playoffs. They gave Mike Brown an extension. It looked like they were having continuity. And so Mike Brown, after winning Coach of the Year and getting an extension, he started feeling more and more comfortable. And they have underperformed this year. So after your star player goes and fouls a three-point shooter and causes you to lose to bleeping Detroit, Mike Brown post-game goes and says this.
I'll challenge you, DeAaron Fox. You got to figure out how to get to that level without having
somebody piss you off.
With rumors then swirling that it was because him and DeAaron Fox didn't get along, that's why he got fired. And the combination of Sacramento Kings incompetence and this rumor mill is a double whammy of a bad look for the NBA. Because it seems like the players who get paid the most are the least accountable, and then when all else fails, let's just fire the coach. It gives off a playground vibe, which deeply lacks in professionalism. Then there was the rumor of him bringing DeMar DeRozan off the bench, and that being some huge misstep. But is it really a misstep if your idiot incompetent organization goes and gets someone who is super ball dominant and needs the ball in his hands all the time in an offense which was more about moving the ball and motion? You go and get a guy who is not a motion guy, and then you're mad at the coach for wanting to experiment. Maybe, hey, we have this guy who's super ball dominant come off the bench so that he can just score and shoot, and we don't have to worry about his volume. Not to mention the fact that DeMar DeRozan is 35 years old and has a lot of wear and tear on his body. You don't just go out and fire a respected coach who has brought you the most success that you have had in over 16 years. Yes, it's in the writing that at any time you can lose your job, but there has to be reasons behind it. Make it make sense, because otherwise this is not going to help your viewership at all, because it looks like that there's no strategy in the NBA. It looks like there's no professionalism. The front faces of this game are saying coaches don't matter, and then it's being shown in the actions in the NBA. What Erik Spoelstra said is just so jarring and true. There's been 15 head coaches in Sacramento since he has been the singular head coach in Miami. Yes, turnaround is part of the league, but again, there has to be some regulation by the NBA. The NBA needs to step in and say, this crosses the line. Just like they've done in the past with the Chris Paul to the Lakers, or forcing Donald Sterling to sell the Clippers. If the NBA is motivated, they can make stuff happen.